Hello, hello, and welcome to Of All the Places. Katie is already laughing at me.
I can't help it.
Was it that little maybe like half wink I gave you?
There's like a pause and like a strange little like half wink situation. We don't know what's happening.
Katie, what's going on? Anything cool?
Oh my gosh, I don't even
Sunny
know.
today.
It's
I'm down with that.
No, we just sat on the porch for like a half hour because we are just soaking up the vitamin D.
Well, it's like this weird depth of winter. It's whatever the opposite of dog days of summer is. We're like in the opposite of that. So any sunny day, I'll take that.
Yep, I'm here. I'm here for it. I'm with it. It's reinvigorating my soul to have the sunshine out.
Yeah. Good transition. Thanks for setting me up for that, because invigorating our souls today on the podcast, I am excited to talk to Shera Konen. Shera, from what I know of Shera, she's, another badass. So that's a given. But Shera does some site location managing for the Hollywood film industry. Something along those lines. She got Cass and I into some like funky situations. I'm sure it'll come up. I have to ask her about it because I have to kind of poke fun of her a little bit. But I know that she's worked with 1923 when that filming was in town.
All right.
The shenanigans she got us roped into was Bring on the Dancing Horses, that production.
Was that the Halloween Kids where they changed your door 47 times?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard this story. We'll revisit this and get some more information.
And so she's got a really interesting career that I don't think many people know about, and she's doing it here in Butte, Montana, of all the places.
I can't wait to dive into
this.
Ding,
ding, ding, ding. So
ding, ding, ding.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's get into it.
All right. Shera Konen, ladies and gentlemen, and the juice.
Of all the places, of all the places, of all the places, why here?
Good to go?
Yeah.
Nice.
Live.
Shera, welcome to the Dojo Casa studio.
Hey, thank you. This is truly amazing. Truly
thanks.
amazing.
Yeah. I feel you actually make me feel cooler because I feel like you're my 6 degrees of separation away from everyone in Hollywood.
Oh, wow. That's funny because I'm far more degrees away from anyone in Hollywood than that.
You're also a dream killer.
I'm lucky enough to be affiliated with a lot of people in Hollywood. And it's funny, though, because I feel the same degree of separation that you do. Like, I work with them, and then I go home, and it seems like surreal, like that's somebody else's life. And then I just go home to my little place in Butte, Montana, and I'm very happy. And then when I see them again, they're my strange friend. Like, it's
crazy.
It's a very strange anomaly, even for me.
Yeah. I was telling Katie earlier on how you got us roped into Bring on the Dancing Horses.
Roped in is a very good term for that. Yes.
So let's back up.
Okay.
Well, I don't really know what you do. I don't think many people do.
I definitely don't.
What would be like your title on your business card?
Oh, God. So kind of all things production, I guess. How I got started in production was I was the development, like locations and casting person for a production company in Montana that's located in Manhattan and Missoula. And so I was tied directly to them and did all of their casting and development for reality television mainly. So if you see like Mountain Men on History Channel, I cast all of that. And what History Channel would do is just tell me, like, we want our newest mountain man to be from North Carolina. And so I would just drive every back road in North Carolina, stop at every small restaurant, every backwoods store until I could find somebody to talk to. And then they would lead me to somebody else, and they would lead me to somebody else until we end up with the mountain men that we have. And that went for HGTV, Travel Channel, Animal Planet, just kind of whatever project came up with Warm Springs Productions. And then about 7 years ago, I guess, I decided to go as a freelancer. Network television has become really difficult. Networks have a really hard time branding themselves with streaming there's so many streaming options that network television has kind of lost their way a little bit. And so like HGTV started going off on some strange ventures. It all just became very, very difficult to find something that would please them. And so I decided that I would just go freelance and see if I could make my way in like film as well. So it wasn't just a television thing. Ironically, my first job after I quit and went freelance was for them. I went back to
Like, she's too good. Bring her on back.
I went back to Alaska looking for another Alaskan mountain man. And then after that, my next job as a freelancer was Bring on the Dancing Horses, which leads us back to me roping you into, and I had never done that before, like locations with Warm Springs. I was on the development team. We would come up with an idea. We would talk about who we want, which that time in reality television was very, very just craziness. I felt like I was going to dig people out from under bridges. Like, we're looking for people that are right on the edge of sanity, and so it was
There's a deep pool
and
around
possibly off the edge of sanity. So it was just such a strange time, but I was in on the development from the beginning. So they'd come up with an idea. We decide where in the world this would look like it would fit in. I mean, if you're a moonshiner, I'm gonna go to South Carolina or North Carolina or Virginia or somewhere where that would be a thing. And then I went to work for Bring on the Dancing Horses, which is a totally different thing. They hand me a script. They said, you read through it, and every single scene change, you find us where that's going to be. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a task,
That's wild.
because in reality TV, you just go with the flow. You are where they are. And so that was my first independent project that I was a location manager, and then did the background casting on that one. But that's where it led to me chasing down John and Cassie and saying, can we use your house? And we may or may not kill somebody in it.
That's right.
And we did. I think we did.
Well,
Did
I
we?
remember
We killed
somebody
8 people that night.
I remember somebody getting kicked.
Oh.
So we were in the house. It's a funny story.
By a
'cause-
horse?
No.
No.
Oh.
No. Is it?
She's a female assassin. The
Yeah.
lead in this movie is a female assassin. It was Kate Bosworth. And the plot is super interesting and violent. So violent.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about your film festival that you just put
Yeah,
on, but
yeah.
before that, like the pilot for that show is super cool. So it is playing in Canada.
It's playing overseas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of our Canadian friends out there,
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. It's 10 episodes and
FaceTime me because I want to see it.
Yeah.
But Shera kind of reached out, and so we were actually in the house. This was like in the weird COVID time.
Yeah. It was very COVID-y.
Yeah, and so we were upstairs, and we kind of just stayed up there. And everyone was kind of coming and going, and our house was like one of the houses on the street of whatever. And we're looking for Kate, right? Because she's like
Yeah.
the one. And
The
she,
star.
it was like, and it was a night shoot. So
It was
there's-
all night and it was like 20 below.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
so cold.
and everyone was like using our house as a warming hut. And then Kate, it was like 2 a.m, and we're just peering, like just super creepy, peering out our front window, just waiting for her. I'm like, I think that's it. Shera said something about a cool hat. I think I see the hat. And then she came in and she rehearsed lines. And I had this is the dumbest realization. I'm like, Kate Bosworth has to practice. Like how bizarre is that? You just think that like celebrities, like they just show up
just
for work and do their work.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I guess like Michael Jordan had to practice free throws and Kate Bosworth has to practice lines in
Yeah.
our living room. It was the
Yeah.
most bizarre thing. I don't know. It was so surreal.
Yeah. And also I did not relay all of the information of what was going to take place in their house because frankly, I didn't know. Like this was my first project and we took advantage of their house and it was a Halloween scene. It was beyond cold. And so they ended up being the house. And I think probably their plumbing was screwed up after that. Like everybody was just using their house. I felt terrible. and they were gracious about it.
No,
so
it was
yeah,
fun. It was
it
just
was a
fun to be
wild
part of.
scene. Yeah.
Oh,
It
that's
was
cool.
Yeah.
That's so
And I was
cool.
I ran into one of the girls that played background. Do you know Darian? That works at the Motherlode now? Well, she was a bird. Do you remember that? It was a crazy scene. So it was a Halloween scene. We killed 8 people that night, or Kate did. And
no big deal.
Darian said the only thing she can remember about that night was thinking she might freeze to death.
Oh gosh.
Because they didn't actually they didn't go in your house. The background was in that little tent with a
I
heater.
suppose.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh.
Because they just had to walk up and down the street 1,000 times.
1,000 times, knocking on doors,
Boy,
killing people.
that's it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Is this like an industry that you've been involved with forever? Like, what did you want to do? What did you want to do when you grew up?
It wasn't an industry that I had any concept about at all. So the reason I even got into it is I was selling real estate in Moonlight Basin and Big Sky.
Okay.
So I was selling resort real estate, and one of the gentlemen that I sold several properties to, he called me one day, and it was in 2008 when the whole market went nuts. Like we had 14 houses due to close one day. We released them in phases. We had 14 due to close countrywide, didn't show up for 12 closings. And we ended up closing none of them. None of the houses closed because the industry dropped. Lehman Brothers filed
That was that
bankruptcy.
housing crisis,
Countrywide filed bankruptcy. The whole industry went nuts. And the gentleman who I had sold him several properties called me and he said, "Hey, Shera, I'm opening a production company. Do you want to come play?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." I would like to get out of this industry. Thank you very much. And he was somebody that I knew. He had a show on the Sportsman's channel called The Pierce Project. And so I was aware that he was in that world, but he decided to just go with it full and start a production company. And the cool part about it was he was the only production company that wasn't using freelancers. That's how production companies make it. They don't guarantee anybody anything. You're not, they rent all of their property. They don't have assets. They don't own a storefront. Like they don't have a physical property. And he decided to do it the exact opposite of that. He hired everybody as employees. We had insurance. We had all of the benefits. He bought all the equipment, and we were a full-on production company, and it was so much fun. And I was with them for about 12 years, and I got to see an unbelievable amount of stuff. Like what I got to be part of was crazy. But then, like I said, when the network started having trouble branding themselves, the company started downsizing, and I could see the writing on the wall. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to just try to strike out on my own here. I have a little bit of severance. I'm just going to do it. And I did. And to this day, I haven't been out of work. So it's been interesting. And the projects have been everything from soup to nuts. That was the first one, Butcher's Crossing. That was up in East Glacier. There was just been a little bit of everything. So it's been interesting. And and most of those, you asked me what I do. So on most of those, I'm the location manager. So they hand me a script. I read through the script. I highlight every single location change, whether it be a room or 90% of the times when you see a film and they go from one room in a house to another room in a house, those rooms aren't in the same house, because rarely do you have a house that kind of encompasses everything that's in their mind's eye as far as the visuals. And so generally a room is in another house, or the front door of a house is exactly what they envisioned, but once you walk in the door, that's nothing like they were thinking about. So you walk in the front door and that's one scene, and the inside is a totally different building. So it's super interesting to watch that happen. And again, the first script they handed me, I was like, "Oh, you need a house? Great. This is a house." And I had no idea, no idea. So on that, Bring on the Dancing Horses, we ended up having 23 location changes. And I don't mean room to room. I mean full-on company moves, 23 in 31 days.
Wow.
It was insanity. I mean, that's moving 200 people, just all over the place in 20 below weather. So it was COVID. So, we just run through COVID through the crew, and then everybody'd get well, and then COVID would go through the crew again. I mean, we had so much COVID protocol. We had to be tested every single day.
Right.
I mean, and if you tested positive, you had to be off for 10 days. It was that really strict protocol. But the governor wanted the world to know that, yeah, we're still allowing, because LA shut down, Atlanta shut down, New York shut down. There was nothing being done. And I think Montana really got a boost in production during that time. So,
Well, I remember, and I don't know if we were talking about this, but at that time it was so weird and things were closed down. But if you look at Uptown Butte as a set of a movie and you think back, if you're trying to figure out a movie set from
yeah.
the 30s in Brooklyn, you can make that in Uptown Butte without
Absolutely.
changing a single thing.
Not well with 1923. Look what they did. I mean, they
Right.
actually made it into Bozeman, but
Yep.
We don't talk about that.
yeah, yeah.
We still clean
Okay, you
it.
can cut that. Cut it. But it is true. Like, people that come here every time, every single cinematographer that I walked through with, every director, every producer, they're like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is just sitting here. One of the first guys that I walked through with 1923 when he was just scouting, he literally just said, "This is the most beautiful grit I've ever seen." And I don't know that that's a catchphrase that Butte ever wants to grab onto, but it felt pretty authentic. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful grit. And he used that to pitch it to the powers that be for 1923. And he could not believe that this has been untouched.
It is.
And
a
so
time
my
capsule.
prayer is, or my wish is, that people that come in to develop it acknowledge that and maintain that character and the beautiful grit, I guess.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's something that we all know. Like,
Oh,
we-
yeah.
We all know the
Yeah.
beautiful grit and the
We
beauty
do.
that lies in every brick of town.
And we appreciate it. That's
Right.
the
Yes.
thing. I think a lot of people, when you first walk through Butte, you're kind of like, ooh, you might see the grit and not the beauty, but
Yeah.
it takes a minute, and it's there. It's everywhere. You just look around, and yeah, there's some things that are, a little negligent, and the roads aren't as what they could be, but underneath that is amazing, and the people are amazing. And they did get a tiny bit of maybe production fatigue when there was so much of it, because every street was a detour and you couldn't get into maybe some of the restaurants you wanted to, or things move a little bit slower, or I don't know. I do know that there was a time when there were some haters in town, but I think at the end of the day, what it brings into our economy is so amazing that they can't fault it.
Yeah.
Did
No.
you do the same sort of location work for 1923?
No.
That you did? Okay.
Originally, I just did it with some of the producers that came to town, the directors, and he was actually a director on Yellowstone, and he's a Montana guy. And so just by the fact that I'm here, and he was given my name to do some initial scouting, I did that. So on 1923, my job was, I was travel coordinator, housing coordinator so we moved a crew of up to 600 sometimes, just all over the state, all over the country, all over the world.
Wild.
So there was a team of 3 of us that did all of the movement and all the housing.
Man, that was something else.
Yeah.
What they did to Broadway Street blew my mind.
And it was really very little. That's the whole thing. Is
Yeah.
it was, what they did was amazing and almost nothing, because it was there. They could see it before they did anything. I mean, they put a couple like false barn doors on some things and a few things, but the work that they did was so minimal for the effect that they got. And it's, that kind of thing saves them a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it was cool to see. I mean, watching the show, to us,
Yeah.
it really did just look like Broadway Street.
Yeah.
But you would
Yeah.
never know unless you lived here and drove down that street every single day. But it was so cool to see that and see it so recognizable.
Right.
Like, there they are.
There it is.
With their horses
Yeah.
down
There's
Broadway
a boxing
Street.
rink, right? By
And
Beautiful
it really,
Things.
it really
it
doesn't
was-
look much different in the show than it does when you drive down it. I mean, now because they left some of the signs up and stuff.
Right.
And it looks great.
Gosh,
it was
it
so
really does.
cool.
It is amazing. And the number of tourists and stuff that came to town just because of that
Yeah.
was crazy. Just even in the anticipation that it was filming here,
Well, and it was cool
we
that
would just run into people all the time.
we were able to walk around it,
Yeah.
to walk down it and see the set and like stand there when it was closed and when they were actually, filming, not actively filming, but just to have that like available. It wasn't totally closed off. So
Right.
everybody got to kind of see it. And be a part of it in that way and like check out what was going on. And that was super cool.
And I think that's my favorite part about production, like especially in a place in like Butte, where for one thing, the famous can come and they can not be badgered to death for the most part. I mean, there's obviously a few that, that little stalkers that kind of follow them around, but for the most part, they can walk around town. I mean, Harrison Ford went in every place. I mean, Helen Mirin called me one day and was like, "Hey, darling, would you like to meet me for a drink?" And I said, "Absolutely. Where are you?" "Maloney's." And she was just sitting in there.
very best
she had on a
dive
little
bar.
prairie dress and Converse. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
And she was just enjoying a beer, you know? And that is beautiful to bring here because I think the locals, it makes them feel like they get to witness something special and they get a reprieve from the craziness of being chased around. And like to watch them in an environment outside of Montana and having paparazzi and just people literally hounding them, this has got to feel like such heaven to them. In fact, Helen Mirin lived in a place this time out of town, very, very secluded. And one morning she came in and there had been a bear in her yard. She was so excited she couldn't even stand it. Like some people would have been, "Get me out of there, get me out." And she was just like, "There was a bear." Just
fun.
beside herself that,
that's
and
amazing.
just the tranquility and the solitude of it.
Right.
She was in heaven. She was in heaven.
For them to get to experience that
Yeah.
while they're working,
Yeah.
while they're shooting and filming,
Yeah.
but get to experience Montana in that way and in a place like Butte that it's not like super fast paced, lots of people, busy, like
Yeah. Just kind of, in fact, I remember her saying one time, she was like, "Are there ever people on the streets?" And I was like,
We
"Well,
actually asked each other that.
yeah,
Kind of time.
yeah, sometimes not.
sometimes not.
Not when it's this cold, there's not,
No.
But yeah, it was really interesting for them too. And in fact, this time when Helen was here for this season 2, she came into the office and she just said, "Last year the beauty of Butte escaped me. This year I see it. I love it here. I hope we come back." And there was just a couple of experiences on season 1 where I think she felt very aware of how vulnerable she was. And then this season, she was just like, "I love it here. It escaped me last year."
That's
So,
cool.
yeah.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
Great piece of advice. She's been everywhere. She's done
She's amazing.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's my favorite to this day. That's the person I admire the most out of everyone I've met.
Wow.
She's amazing.
Why?
She's humble. She's just humble. She's beautiful inside and out. And she doesn't take anything about what she's got in life for granted. Like she's aware of how blessed she is. And I think that a lot of times that gets lost in translation, right? You know what you know, you expect what you expect. And there's no like real thinking about how you got there and how it used to be. But Helen remembers all of that. And she's aware all the time of how blessed she is. And so there's something about her that's so authentic. Well, in fact, the very first time I met her, I said, I picked her up and I was just like, "Helen," I said, "I haven't seen you in anything for a couple years. And, what have you been doing?" She said, they had a son that passed away. And she said, "I've been busy loving my son." She's just so real. Like any mother would say that.
Right.
And it, that was my introduction to Helen. And I was like, all right, I see you. She's amazing. Yeah.
It's so funny because you're not supposed to meet your celebrity, like your favorite celebrities. They're never what you build
Right.
up in your head.
Yeah.
But
She's more than.
yeah, that's neat.
But it is true. Yeah. Never meet your
It is
heroes.
true.
Yeah.
Never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually on the Helen Mirin story. So I signed up to be a background actor on 1923, and it was like the weirdest experience of my life.
It's
right?
not fun.
Let's
get
I'm
that
glad
out
you
of the
said
way
that.
by now.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I didn't
Yeah,
want to
it's
like
not.
I don't want to badger anybody. But one of the couple cool experiences for Helen, we were in that it was like that board meeting above in the Carpenter's Hall.
Yep, the Carpenter's Hall.
And she came up and she had like this literally like I'm sure it was like a 10-page soliloquy that she just had to like ream everybody on the bench. And she just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And I'm just like, every single time in my eyes was perfect. Done. Cut. Let's move on, right? But for whatever reason, then they took us all downstairs. She kept doing it like multiple times just for the sound. But it was so interesting for me to see how difficult acting actually is.
It is the most tedious. Like, my ADHD would never even allow it. Like, they do the same thing so many times.
And it has to be good every time.
Well, and it has so much to do with things that you never think about. Like, did the sound guy hear a click? Did was there something, was there an airplane? Was there a piece of paper that made a noise? Did the light change? Did it look different from frame to frame? Like, everything is so tedious. And it's like, to the naked eye, you wouldn't even notice it. And that's what amazes me about people in the industry and how meticulous they are about their work. Because again, I'd be like, nope, that looks great. Let's move it on,
Totally.
And they are, and including Helen. Like, she would notice if an inflection in her voice changed, or if she sounded too gruff or not gruff enough, or, they're so particular about their work that I'm fascinated by it. I am blown away by the people. And it's not even the actors and actresses, which to me is the most tedious work on earth. It's the work that, like, the cameramen. I don't know if you guys have ever carried around a camera, but when it's not on a tripod, they are heavy.
It's just dead weight.
And I would watch them chasing, like in Mountain Men, chasing somebody up a steep hill. And not only that, but having to get ahead of them and run backward and hold a camera stable. And it blows my mind. I mean, right down to the ADs that are every single day have to do the call sheets. And even that is the most tedious work you can possibly imagine. Every bit of it is tedious, really except for my job, which is the only reason I can do it, is because I just find pretty locations that fit the script, and so, and then my job is done, then I get to move on to the next fun thing. But the people that are there every minute of every day blows my mind.
So do you find it hard when you read a script? You're basically trying to figure out what is in somebody else's mind.
Exactly.
And what of a place or locations, like how is it just difficult to create that imagination in your head?
Yes.
To match what's trying to happen, or the messaging, or?
It depends on not only the script, and if it's supposed to be funny. Like, a comedy, what you're looking for is so much different than if you're looking for a drama or, a place you're going to murder 8 people. And also the director.
So you pick my house for the murdering
I
people.
picked
Awesome.
Murder house.
Your house is awesome,
It's a
by the
murder
way.
house.
And it was in the perfect neighborhood. And all of your neighbors agreed. I mean, for one thing in my job, I have to talk people into doing things that they would never do. And I have to feel good about it. Like, and hopefully I follow up and do what I say I'm going to do too. But some days it's daunting. Like, you want me to ask them if we can drill some holes in their ceiling so we can drop lights down? Do you think they're going to like that? But yeah. So that part of it is really challenging. And the script, just depending on what it is, if it's fun, if it's very serious, if it's dark, if it's a comedy. And more than that is, who is the director? Because I've had directors that I connect with immediately, and I can see the vision, and all we do is talk through the script once, and I'm like, okay, I've got it. I know exactly what you're looking for. I get the feeling of what you're looking for. And then there are directors who don't know what they're looking for, and they give you I'll know it when I see it. And that is
That's really
impossible.
difficult, yeah.
I mean, there's a bazillion locations. Every time you take a step, there's a different location, and you'll know it when you see it. And I had one in particular that we were doing. It was a Nicolas Cage movie, and it was called Butcher's Crossing. We were filming it up in East Glacier, and then also we did some in Virginia City, which I'm so familiar with it. I know those buildings like the back of my hand. East Glacier, that is not true. And we were looking for campsites and stuff like that. And permitting is also a huge issue, especially tribal land and, Glacier National Park. Like, a national park is a absolute no.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have more than 5 team members and 2 cameras. They can't be on tripods. There's just so many. So that was out of the but they wanted the grandiose of Glacier Park. They wanted the awe-inspiring peaks so I drove around I was up there for 6 months staying in Browning and just drove every day and just took pictures and pictures and pictures. And then I would send them to the director and he would be like, well, that would be great if there was just like one more tree. Like if there was a tree and I'm like, can we plant one?
Stuff
Can we
you
just
can-
put
Put a tree
put that
there.
in a post? Can we draw
Yeah,
a tree?
like drop a tree in.
Yeah.
That's right.
But he was so specific in his vision, yet I'll know it when I see it. So that was the most difficult one. And actually we did not settle on one location till he actually flew in, which was a week before we started shooting.
Whoa.
And so it was up in the air for 6 months. And I literally thought I think I got an ulcer from it because
believe that.
Yeah,
it would
that's
I would
stressful.
send it. And also he was the only other movie that he'd ever filmed was a sports movie because he was a hockey player. And so his vision and how he thought it was all going to take place and even on the day-to-day was so not how it really takes place because he didn't know. And again, you know what you know. And so that was the most challenging because the script was intense. It was dark and I'm not overly familiar with East Glacier, but it turned out amazing. It was dark. It was a very dark movie, but it also turned out beautiful. So yeah, live and learn.
That's so cool. We are supported by Steele's Furniture and Appliance. John, this seems insane, but do our notes say they've been in business for 94 years?
That is 100% correct. And hey, kudos to our crackpot team of factoid checkers. Yeah, Steele's is a 4th generation business located right here in Butte. They're selling just about everything you need for every room of your house. So Serta, Beauty Rest mattresses for the bedroom, Maytag and Amana, KitchenAid kitchen appliances, Lazy Boy and Stanton and Ashley furniture, all sold industry-leading products. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, but to anybody out there, just know that Steele's is literally like the largest furniture and appliance warehouse in the area.
And the one thing that they offer that sometimes gets overlooked is their home accents and seasonal items. Those are the real pops of personality that make a house truly your own.
I daydream about getting home every day after work and sitting down for the rest of time on my beautiful sectional couch that I got from Steele's. That's literally one of my favorite grown-up purchases I think I've ever made.
Steele's Furniture, how can you not love a business that's been around longer than, I don't know, the television?
Like the old picture box.
Shop online at steelsfurniture.com or better yet, head on over to 800 South Wyoming Street in Butte, Montana.
We are supported by Restore Design and Build, the architectural and general contracting husband and wife team. Mike Hanley and Maisie Sulzer are a powerhouse duo on the historic renovation, rehab, remodeling scene. Like, we're talking Chip and Joanna Gaines level of skills right here in Butte, Montana. You know what I'm talking about, Katie.
They're the perfect fit. Their mission and Butte, it's what we need.
And I got to tell you about their current project. It's unbelievable. I've been lucky enough to step foot in the old Fairmont Creamery building. Now, this was a big old cold storage warehouse in Butte. It's like a 3-story. It was a burnt out shell when they purchased the property. I thought they were crazy. Soon, like very soon, it'll be 5 beautiful apartments in uptown Butte. Now, I've been lucky enough to see this progress. They've been doing a fantastic job. It's just unbelievable what they're doing to that space. Rethinking and creating living spaces in like this crazy unused historic structure is unbelievable.
What they're doing addresses such an important need we have in Butte. We've talked about it a bit on this podcast that in order to create a vibrant, exciting community where people want to be, we need to reimagine these big old structures and get people in them and using them. And more people living right in Uptown Butte is such a good thing.
And I'm actually hoping to get these two on the podcast at some point because it's a very cool story to share. And like I said, they are the definition of dynamic duo. Like this Chip and Joanna Gaines, yeah. But they're also a little bit like, I don't know, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
I think they're kind of a lot like Sonny and Cher.
Sonny and Cher, yeah. What about like salt and pepper?
Ooh, okay. Snoop and Martha Stewart.
Yeah, yeah, girl. Peanut butter and jelly. You got to go with that.
Lewis and Clark.
Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted.
Napoleon and Pedro.
All right, I'm going to shut you down
Okay.
with Forrest Gump and Jenny.
That's it. That's like that duo can't be topped. You've won.
But we're talking about Mike and Macy from Restore Design and Build. They run a one-stop shop for all your design and construction needs. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram. You'll be happy you did. Katie, one address for you. 146 West Park Street. Tell me what you know about that corner.
It's the corner.
It's the corner.
I'm not great at geography, John.
It's also not geography.
Oh, God.
That is Montana and Park Street, right where Taco del Sol is. We are supported by Taco del Sol. Ugh, and that burrito bowl, give it to me.
Okay, John. But I'm a pita pit girl.
That's not geography either.
Well, you're right. I don't know what it is. But we're also supported by Pita Pit.
Pita Pit's so good. Ugh. Why are we so lucky with these restaurants uptown?
I don't know, but those two spots are like my go-to for lunch in town. It's quick, it's fresh, it's delish.
I mean, my hack is that burrito bowl.
No,
Right.
I mean, I am a big fan of the burrito bowl. And did you know that the Taco del Sol in Butte actually has some stuff that the other Taco del Sols in like Montana don't have? Because there are other ones in Montana, but you can only get like the mango salsa and the Southwest barbecue sauce like here in Butte. Those are things specific to the Butte location, which I think is so cool.
Really? I'm a
Yeah.
mango salsa guy. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's just a Butte thing. So you got to come to the Butte, Taco del Sol. And I've been a Pita Pit fan forever.
Ugh, the falafel pita?
That is my go-to. I'm not even joking. That is what I
Yes.
get. It's so good.
Mm.
It's just when I'm craving just a quick, delicious, healthy lunch, I'm just waltzing into Pita Pit. And it's always so quick that
I mean, here's the thing. We're all busy, right? And
Yes.
so it's hard to get like quick, good, healthy, fresh food. Pita Pit, Taco del Sol, hand in hand
oh yeah,
with awesome.
it meets all kinds of needs. You're not in the mood for one, you're definitely going to be in the mood for the other.
Yeah.
They've got bowls, salads, wraps, tacos, burritos. I mean, across everything.
And smiles.
And smiled. I mean, everybody that works there is so great.
Yeah.
And
Golly.
I just will eat some queso, even though that's naughty for me, but I love it.
Taco del Sol. Do you remember that geography lesson we had earlier? 146 West Park Street in Uptown. It's on the corner of Montana and Park Street.
And Pita Pit is right next door at 140 West
Ooh.
Park Street.
I can get on board with that.
140, 146 West Park, right on the corner. Stop in. Tell me you said hey.
And just eat it all up.
Enjoy.
I just have this picture in my mind, Katie, of like a director. Don't laugh at me. This happens all the time where I'll just like I've got an image.
I like it.
So I see a director in my head and he's like, we need mountain men. We need the roughest like fur trapper that like backwoods West Virginia can find. Let's find this blonde bombshell. She'll find these mountain men. No problem at all.
Yeah, she can do
We're
it.
gonna send this good looking gal into the mountains. She'll come out with handfuls of men.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. When I went to some of the mountain men rendezvous, because you think you're gonna find some legit. Honestly, though, you don't, because real mountain men don't go to mountain men rendezvous.
True, yeah.
They're attorneys from New York that
Right.
play like they're mountain men but a lot of them you have to dress up pre-1890.
Oh my God.
And so I have these clothes, you guys, in my closets that I look like Little House on the Prairie. And it was so funny. And we'd have to cover our cameras because we'd have to do interviews on site. That's all. We're there interviewing for it. And we'd have to cover them with like linen and just, it was so funny. No motorized vehicle. So we're like walking around like, where is this rendezvous? And you'd see the smoke coming up. And I was always walking around with, they all want to give you an offering, and it would just be the most foul beef jerky and stuff like that. And I'd just be like, yeah, I'll eat that later, just in my pocket. It's like, oh my God.
I've never even heard of this thing.
A Mountain Man rendezvous?
No.
They're everywhere.
Is it like a Ren fair? Like a Renaissance sort of
Yes,
Mountain Man?
except for their mountain men. It's like pre-18 whatever. And they all come together and live like mountain men for however many days. There's like one huge one in Driggs, Idaho that I've been to. Actually, Jason Hawk. I don't know if you guys are familiar with mountain men at all, but Jason Hawk, I found him at the Driggs. And we actually did a spin-off of him because it turned out he didn't live in the mountains. He actually lived in Arizona. So we did a spin-off of Mountain Men of the Desert. It started with Jason Hawk.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
super cool.
So it was called No Man's Land, and it was on Discovery Channel. So Jason Hawk started a spin-off of these Mountain Men of the Desert. They're not real like mountain men. And then the ones that I would I'd interview, they'd look great. And I'd be like, oh my God, you look like a mountain man. And it'd say, so tell me about where you live. Well, I live in a high rise. And oh, well,
That's right.
yeah. Because reality TV does have a hint of truth. Like I'm not going to completely make
Almost
up.
reality.
Yeah,
Right.
it's almost
Right.
reality. Like one of our mountain men, he's from Alaska, Marty Maiorato. I don't know. But he's a bush pilot. And so he really does have this place out in the bush where he traps all winter long. In the summer, he's a smoke jumper, so there's always an element of truth and there's always some of it that's exaggerated. Yeah.
Well, that's the smoke and mirrors of television, isn't
Yeah.
it?
100%.
Movies.
100%.
Right? Like
Yeah.
you walk into the front door of what you want and it's it could be another city of the inside of that front
Exactly.
door. It's-
Same thing I said about a location. The door is rarely the door
Right.
into wherever the interior is.
Well, I think
know?
you said even for Bring on the Dancing Horses, our front door of my house was skinned
Yep.
3 different times
Skinned,
to
yep.
make 3 different houses.
And
Yeah.
because
like,
they
what?
wanted it to, the vision was to have this Halloween scene and all of these brightly colored doors just randomly in this very kind of Victorian neighborhood. And so, yeah, they reskinned the doors and then skinned people. And then they didn't.
It's murder.
They didn't really. They didn't skin them.
Oh my god.
I hope we're doing the ad campaign for that show. I hope we're doing it well.
Well, we just played it at the festival.
I was actually at that.
You
it
were?
looked really good. I'm excited.
It's very
for it.
interesting. So I've seen all 10 episodes, and the little clippets, every little clippet that's in that pilot episode is an actual episode. So
neat.
each little piece that you're like, what in the heck? That actually is part of an episode that was clipped for the pilot, so they could get a taste of all 10.
Yeah, because they filmed the whole series, right?
We did the whole series in 31 days, 10 episodes.
Boy.
That's insane.
It was insanity. That was my first leap into that world, and I really questioned what I had done after that, because prior to that, my life was like, I got to travel places and drive, and I was just like, it was hard work. I was up at 4 a.m. and I went to bed at midnight, and I thought maybe I've made a big mistake. But it also it turned out amazing, and I learned more than I could have ever learned. It was like a baptism by fire.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was at that showing. It was super cool because, I've got a personal connection there. But
Right.
afterwards in the Q&A, what was really interesting to hear why it's not picked up in the U.S. yet.
Ahead of its time.
He explained, and I'm going to get this wrong, so correct me, he explained that independent TV isn't quite recognized as independent films are already recognized. So it's kind of like this anomaly, and they don't know what to do with it.
They didn't know what to do with it because it's actually like 10 feature-length films. It's a freestanding. It doesn't flow into the next one. It's 10. It's all the same premise. It's the same person, and her objective is the same in each one. It's basically to seek revenge on somebody who wronged her. And so every episode is based on that, but every one of them is freestanding on its own. Like you could watch it and you'd be satisfied that it had a beginning and it had an end.
So you could watch it in any order.
You could watch it in any order.
Cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
there's
cool.
no beginning and there's no end. And in the United States right now, that's not an option. Like there's not every like reoccurring television show kind of, flows into each other and you see what happens the next time. And it's like last time on this last week, and then we flow into it with the freestanding 10 series. The United States didn't know what to do with it. So Europe already has that format. And so that's where it ended up. It ended up in Canada, and I believe it showed in Italy. So it's played in parts of the country that have already kind of evolved into that. The United States will too, because that's where it's going, and so they will as well. So maybe someday, it'll air here too. But in the meantime, other people are enjoying it.
Yeah, so that's kind of cutting edge in that.
Yeah.
Like they don't know
Yeah.
what to
And
do
I
with
think
it.
the Polish brothers, that's part of their deal. I think they're always kind of right on that cutting edge.
Cool.
We just filmed another movie here with Michael just a few months ago. And the other portion of it was filmed in Italy, or not in Italy, in Ireland. And so he's a twin, and they were very distant for a while. They didn't communicate. There was a falling out, whatever. And in this movie, they're coming back together and finding out that they're twins. It's a cool story. And yeah, so half of it was filmed in Ireland and the other half was filmed here because their dad was actually born in Butte.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have a very tight connection, although they didn't learn that till later in their life. Their dad was a DEA agent. So they were all over.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah.
born here.
So they spend a ton of time in Mexico. Their mom's Mexican. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're talking about it was the Northwest 360 Winter Fest.
Yeah.
Did I say
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
So this is a film festival, etc. festival
Yeah.
that Shera helped, I don't know, create, I
Yeah.
guess. This was the first year.
First year, inaugural year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did this idea come to fruition?
It came to me via a gentleman who had the idea of starting the festival. And he, when he came here, he had no intent, or when he approached me, he had no intention of it being in Butte. He was like, he was looking at Bozeman or Red Lodge or Whitefish or someplace that has more of a transient, like a population that comes for events, kind of an event, just a venue more like that. And I just said, can we at least give Butte a chance to shoot itself in the foot? Like, I would love you to take a look, because I believe that Butte is the most interesting city in Montana. And so he came and we went up and we met JP and we went to the venues. I kind of showed him around, and he brought in Rosalina Lidster, is somebody who he had worked with in the past branding. She's a third generation Vietnamese jewelry maker. So she does like the crowns for Miss Universe. Her family does.
Oh my God.
And so
No big deal.
yeah. So anyway, he brought her in as a team member because he'd worked with her in the past. And then she brought in a few team members that she works with from different parts of the country that do branding. And they came to Butte. We did a tour, and they love it. Like, they love it. And they were like, we want our friends to invest in Butte. We want to help. We want to bring this in to Butte, And so, yeah, that's how it started. The gentleman who initially brought it in, he's not part of the program anymore. But so Rosalina and myself, and then Herb Stratford is a programmer, and he does the Tucson Film Festival and Napa and Sonoma. He is absolutely the best. And he took the project on, and it wouldn't have happened without him. Like, he has the connections and the know-how. Like, here's the deal about a festival. My hat's off to George Everett, because it's nuts.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to ask you about this part.
yeah. We had really, really grandiose ideas at first, because we thought, this is going to be cake. We all know what we're doing. We're in the industry. Rosalina, also, on top of being a jewelry maker, she developed and then produced the House of Ho. I don't know if you've ever seen that on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
So it was modeled after Crazy Rich Asians. And so it's the television version of that. And that is her show.
Cool. Wow.
So anyway, I came into it thinking that I had enough know-how And so did she, and we were wrong. Like it takes so much to put it all together and get it all done. And the programming side of it is crazy. The technical side, the scheduling, it's all so intricate. And so Herb really did. It wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened without him. And so we came in with all these grandiose ideas. We were like, we're bringing in a Vortex Dome. It's going to be, like the Sphere in Vegas, except it's a portable one. We had the team from Vegas come out and measure up at the original. It all fit. We were like, yeah. And then they called us back and they were like, so this festival's in January, right? Yep, it is January. It's in January in Montana, yes. And he said, well, historically, it's colder than 10 degrees, and we cannot guarantee you that we can keep the dome inflated.
Oh, gosh.
And I can't think of anything worse than having a dome collapse on people, And so anyway, we were like, okay, scratch that. Well, we'll put that on the sideline for later dates. And, we just had so many ideas. We want to do this. We want to do that. We want to... And we the last few months, we were like, we can't do all that. So we did have to scale it back to a 4-day festival. And for a first-year festival, I think it was successful. I mean, we brought in amazing filmmakers. I don't know if you guys have seen the previews for that show Unstoppable about that young wrestler he's got one leg. We premiered that here. And it was a huge pat on Herb's back, actually, to get that film here. And the filmmakers came in. Cool. We did have 3 filmmakers who unfortunately lost their homes in LA that same week. Oh my God. And so we weren't able to, they weren't able to attend, but the movie Unstoppable is actually an Amazon production. And so we had some of those folks here. And, so some really cool things. Kevin Nealon was here, the Napoleon Dynamite crew.
How in God's name did you get Napoleon Dynamite to come to Butte?
Herb he's friends with them.
That is
and and then, Efren Ramirez, who's Pedro, also, he's a DJ. And so he DJ'd a show for us at 51 Below. And it was the things that I was like, I don't know how people are going to react to this, that people went nuts over. 51 Below looked like a club. Like Efren was doing his thing and people loved it. And we did a meet and greet for Napoleon Dynamite. And again, there's just stuff. I mean, I love Napoleon Dynamite, but I know it's very, it's niche, right?
Yeah.
We had to turn people away from the meet and greet. It was fantastic. Crazy. And they were just so gracious with everybody. We got pictures with everybody. And I mean, there were just some really, really cool parts of it. We had a DJ that came in from Korea. And again, I was like, well, I thought I knew what a DJ was, for starters. I have no idea. Like, I've never seen a DJ. I've seen people at weddings and stuff that DJ. And not saying that we don't have some great DJs here. She was so good. She didn't speak a word of English, but she was so good.
That's amazing.
So there was just some really interesting things that happened, and people stepped up. My friends especially. Joe drove everyone everywhere.
It takes a village.
Yeah, it takes a village. Yeah, my neighbors, Dan and Kim Steele, they were driving people around. And I mean, it was, so that part of it, like, I'm always so grateful for people. It's always the same ones that step up for you every single time. But the work that goes into it, you guys, is more than, I was over my skis in a big way. But
you had so many venues that you were showing.
4 or 5?
We did the Mother Lode, the Covalite, 51 Below, the Depot.
Elks.
And the Elks. Yeah. And Jeff Riggs is also so gracious, and he's done such an amazing job with that building. Mm-hmm. And we also used his VRBO below the Baptist Church. We used the Baptist Church too. We had some filmmakers panels there. So and in our original plan, we even had more venues than that. Like, we were over the top ambitious. But we hope to do that. We hope it's an annual event, and we're planning something that's going to be like the beginning of May now. And I mean, nothing that is like, the contracts aren't signed yet, so I can't say what it is, but just some fun stuff. And anytime, we named it Northwest 360 just so it can encompass everything. It doesn't have to be limited to just film or just music or just comedy, or I mean, we might do a pickleball tournament. Who knows? You know,
Yeah,
but if we
that'd
get
be
an
awesome.
opportunity to bring something that seems like a great thing for Butte, then we'll do it. And it doesn't matter what time of the year is. It's not always going to be at the same time of year, because we did find out really quickly we picked the worst time of the year.
I bet.
Yeah, it was a difficult time right after the holidays. Most celebrities are on hiatus for one thing. And so getting them to come to Butte, Montana was, they weren't that excited actually. So we learned a lot. Yeah, we learned a lot through some big mistakes. But
The one thing you mentioned is that I think it was Rosalina when she came here and she fell in love with it. What can you speak to that? How somebody from out from not
and she lives
Butte.
in the Bay Area in San Francisco.
Yeah,
and
and to fall in love or to see what we've got going on here, to create this festivals is like that's a big
crazy
mindset change, I think.
Yeah. So when they came in, we were just walking around, and I think what we don't appreciate every day is Butte's architecture. Most places and cities, even if the old architecture still stands, it's been modernized and it's been commercialized so much that it no longer just looks, it's lost its character and its personality and just the authenticity of it. And Butte is, if nothing else, authentic. And they just felt that. And they could also see that, I mean, there's things that you could bring in that would make Butte so much, just step it up a tiny bit, like some more food options. And like Rosalina was fascinated by Butte's old Chinatown. Obviously that's right up her alley. And she was just like, oh, I could bring in this and this. And so it just fed on that. And on that note, we actually did have a Michelin star chef from Italy come in, Andrea Moreno. And we did a Michelin star chef dinner that was sold out. Like you couldn't get into that. And we had Eric Gelly, he started Cirque du Soleil in Vegas. He was one of the founders of it, and his wife is a sommelier. And they came in, and she was a sommelier at a dinner, but they were blown away by Butte. And there was just the people that came in with Rosalina and her husband is Marty, and then it blew my mind. And how much they enjoyed Butte it blew my mind. It made me so happy. I mean, they had pork chops and they had,
you
they
have
were
to
just
have a pork chop.
Yeah. They were just soaking it all in. I mean, they all went shopping at, I think all of them have 5518 gear now.
We saw a lot of them.
Yeah, they have all the gear. And they were like, which boutiques do you shop at? And, I'm like, well, you're in San Francisco. I think you probably, have some options. But they went in every store and they were buying, they were just so fascinated by the authenticity of Butte and the authenticity of the people. They were like, we never get treated this kindly, because they're always with people that are same. You know what I mean? And so to be a new face in a new little town and have people so excited to have them there and to, really open up to them, they were fascinated by Butte. It was heartwarming, actually. Yeah.
And it's weird. We talk a lot about how weird Butte is. People want some unique, funky
something
things.
unique. And Butte's unique. They were fascinated by the diversity and even uptown, you have this store here and then you have whatever's going on here. Like they were completely blown away by just even the fact that that's allowed to happen.
Right.
They just were blown away by it.
We're a little
they were
Western.
Yeah. Like there's no, I don't know what it even would be called. There's really no rules. And they loved it. They froze to death, but they loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Freezing.
Murdoch's and whoever else sells winter boots made a killing.
Yeah. Sure.
And gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were out buying them all.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that was really, the festival was considered a success, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
there's
I mean,
plans to
it
continue.
clearly, we don't make money on the first year festival. And so did it break even? No. But did it prove that there's potential for it to be, I'm sure the folk festival is a different animal because it started out in a different way. It was an international film festival that we actually retained. So they came with a built-in audience the first year. So that's very different. But I think if any, well, Bill Fisher, we used his venue, and he was telling me, he's like, Shera, the first time I did Rock in the Rivers, I can't remember what he told me he lost. He goes, but I'm still recuperating.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So we were pleasantly surprised that it proved to us that it can be done and that it can be successful, and especially with some tweaks like, the time of the year. Maybe that's not the greatest week ever. And our bad also, we did not market it quickly enough. It takes time to get marketing out like statewide and we were so busy trying to decide what we could accomplish in a short time that we couldn't advertise until it's dialed in, right? You can't say, we're going to do this and this and this and then just not do it, because that is a failure. So to really advertise, we had to wait until we knew exactly what we were doing. And we learned a lot, but we just did it too late. So we feel like with tweaks and know-how, I mean, now we know what we're getting into. Like, we were blind going in
and shooting in a moving target the whole time.
It was just like, oh my gosh, but we feel really positive about it. And the things we're talking about in April would be really fun just to have here. And or actually the beginning of May, I think we kind of dialed that into the very beginning of May. And we want to bring in some educational components to this, like it's Sundance. Sundance isn't just a week-long film festival anymore. It's a way of life, basically. They all year long, they have events. They have full-time employees. They have a actual storefront. They do educational components. They have writers labs and actors labs and dance labs. Any kind of thing that you can get people into the industry or get them interested, PA classes and all of those things. We really hope to incorporate that stuff in time and really make that part of Butte's narrative. Make it like, if you talk about Sundance now, you can go there and you can learn about the industry. And we can see that some of these bigger film festivals have now lost sight of kind of where they started a little bit. And now they cater to already established people instead of up and comers. And so we're hoping to kind of pick that piece up and cater to up and comers and give them a chance to, so that's really the narrative we want to build on. And we'll see. Time will tell, but we felt really good about it after the first time.
That's great to hear.
That's awesome.
It feels like it's happening at a crossroads for Butte as well, where I feel like there's a bubbling of the artist culture in town.
Right.
I've always felt it, but I mean, I feel like it's real now.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's music scene or whether that's the artistic scene.
And there are people that are doing so much for that culture, like Demetrius.
Absolutely.
And and Matt Boyle. And there's people that are just fostering it, and building it. And I feel that way too. And I also feel like just in general, I felt like this way for a few years. That Butte's on the precipice of a change, like a growth. And I really do. I believe that. I can see it in so many ways. It's been discovered as far as like real estate, and it's been maybe too much in that way, but it has been discovered. And the more that we can draw attention to the uniqueness of it and what's available here, I think they'll come and they'll continue to come.
Yeah.
And bringing in that element of film, and then what your vision for the film fest moving forward is to kind of like get your arms around
foster
all
it,
of that.
foster it. I think a lot of times, I mean, we have the Orphan Girl here, which does such a good job of involving kids in theater, like younger kids, because not every child is an athlete. And especially in places where there's not a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of kids that don't have even the means. And if you can provide something to them for free that can get them interested in something, whether it's script writing, whether it's dance, whether it's comedy, whether it's music, if you can foster that and give them options outside of just traditional sports and, activities, then if I can do that, if I can bring that in and I can feel like I'm part of that, then I've done my job. Like, I'll be happy about that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing. We are proudly supported by the Covalite Theater. The Covalite Theater is where all the cool kids are hanging out these days, I hear, John.
Uptown Butte.
Uptown Butte. It's at 215 West Broadway. Little address, plug it into your Google Maps, and head there basically any night of the week to catch all sorts of stuff. Like
The Covalite's like the crossroads of the art culture right now.
100%. I mean, there's nothing else like it happening in Butte right now.
2 theaters inside of that old church.
You have two venues for the price of one, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can they've got it all going on there. They've got open mic. They've got all sorts of other events you can catch. Comedy, film, dance lessons, vaudeville, burlesque, workshops like drink and draw.
Oh, drink and draw is always fun. You've got to go to it.
It's
if you
so
have the
fun.
chance.
It's so fun. You drink and you draw. And that's basically it, but it's great.
It's a win for everybody.
It's a win for everybody. You can rent their space for private events. And I mean, mostly you can just go boogie to some awesome live music.
Yeah, the Covalite's doing a great job.
So head to the Covalite Theater at 215 West Broadway in Butte, Montana. You can check out their complete event listing and get tickets for upcoming shows at covalitepresents.org. We are thrilled to be supported by the one, the only, the legendary M&M Bar and Grill.
Dun, 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 dun.
Did you know that if you're listening to this episode right now on its release date, which is a Thursday, you could pop in your earbuds, waltz down to 17 North Main Street in Uptown Butte, and listen to us while you enjoy our $20 tenderloin dinner. Every Thursday is the M&M's steak night, which includes fries or a baked potato and grilled Texas toast. Oh my God, I'm such a sucker for Texas toast. That's a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, I tell you what, my go-to meal at the M&M, the King of Clubs Club Sandwich. Now, I'm going to tell you how spoiled I am for just a hot minute here. The M&M is literally 20 feet from my desk. But, I'll just do the waltzing. I'll go down to the M&M. They'll whip me up a King of Clubs right in front of me while I sit at the counter and, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And they've got some killer merchandise from their Long Live the M&M shirts to some sweet vintage throwbacks that I know 5518s had a hand in creating.
That was a fun one. We got a picture from an old-timey hat. We rebuilt that thing, and it is back to life, just like the M&M. It's such a fun design. So eat at the icon, and then you can take home a little piece of that Butte history, right?
You got it. That's the M&M Bar and Grill at 17 North Main Street in Uptown Butte.
We are supported by Casa Grande's Steakhouse. My goodness, you can't beat that hand-cut Rocky Mountain beef with that perfect amount of signature Casa Grande seasoning. Just let me dive into one of those petite fillets. You got to go medium rare with that, Katie. It's literally a religious experience. What's your go-to meal at Casa Grande's?
The Arts spicy cream sauce pasta. That is like crack. I'm totally obsessed.
Like I said, religious experience. But I mean, the whole menu is truly off the charts. I'm talking made-to-order pastas, chicken, seafood, of course. We can't say Casa Grande Steakhouse without sushi night. If you miss that, you're straight up missing out. Every Thursday, sushi night. Thank us later for that. Casa Grande Steakhouse, you'll literally never be disappointed.
And you'll never leave hungry.
For sure. You should actually just order a to-go box with your meal. Casa Grande's is located inside the historic Bertoglio building at 801 South Utah Avenue in Uptown Butte. Casa Grande Steakhouse, where you'll always be welcomed as a part of the family.
I do feel like it sometimes goes unnoticed, the kind of amazing stuff we have here in Butte.
Yeah, I do.
And the growth, the positive growth we're seeing here, because although it's being discovered, it takes a special person to fall in love with this place. And there are a lot of people that come here and don't love it.
Right.
And that's okay. But the people that really fall in love with it appreciate it for what it already is. And they're not just looking at all the homes they can turn into Airbnbs like that happens in other places. They really are, they love it. They love the people. They love what's going on. They love the old architecture. And it's really encouraging and cool to see that happening here. Right.
It's funny though, you travel to places around the country and I've got to see some of the real backwoods places. And in those places, there is always something to love, like that beautiful grit. I think that applies to places that they haven't been discovered yet, right? But there's just something about them that's got a little bit of magic and you can feel it. And I feel that way about Butte. I feel like there's just there's some magic here. And when people see it, they see it.
Yep.
And the people that don't, they weed themselves out, and that's cool too.
Yep.
We don't need them here
Well,
if
we're
they
not
don't
for
love it.
everybody.
Yeah, and also the people that come in and turn everything into a VRBO and an Airbnb, you know what? Unless there's stuff going on, you don't rent your spot. So
It's also true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time and place for everything, and not every house can be that, but I feel like they are seeing the beauty.
Well, I love that you talk about authenticity. I've said that word a lot, whether it's the people or the buildings or hell, even the pit.
Yeah.
We can't fake that.
No,
Can't
we
fake the virgin
can't,
pit.
we
You
can't ignore
hide
the
it.
pit.
You can't hide it, so you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is pretty.
It is.
The water is beautiful.
I mean,
that
it's a
turquoise. Beautiful.
geological fascination.
Yeah. Yeah, the weirdness of this place is incredible.
Yeah.
But no, I've said the word authentic so many times in my life, and I think without pinpointing, I think that's the best word that we currently have for it. Like whatever that magic and that spark is
It is.
that people see.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's in the people too. There's just, again, and that's not just Butte. It's like the surrounding areas around here. They've kept their humble. I don't know if humble is the right word. I think authenticity is the right word. Like, we regrew from nothing. Like, my dad worked in that pit. I mean, he worked a mile underground for my entire life until he didn't, until they shut it down. And you watched an entire community of people struggle to rebrand themselves, to rebuild a community. And come hell or high water, Butte's done it, and through festivals and through just weirdness, like you keep building, you keep plugging along and, fight a good fight. And I feel like it's paid off. Like all of a sudden we're seeing it. And, if you want to call it beautiful grit, you want to call us the festival city, whatever it is that you want to call us, just come to Butte. You'll fall in love with it. Like the crew from 1923. And so I'd like to preface this by saying Austin calls itself the weirdest city
Yes.
in the United States.
Yes.
And so the crew, they filmed in Austin before they came here for season 2.
Right, yeah.
And for starters, they all pointed out that Austin's not the weirdest. It's not even close. But they love it here. None of them wanted to go back to Austin. They feel like, I feel like Butte is one of those places. It doesn't matter where you come from, what kind of demographic you come from. You feel like you're home. People will make you feel like you're home here. And that's what they said. In fact, I don't know how many of them bought homes here. Some of them haven't left. They have, they've just stayed here, got another job, and they haven't left Butte. And collectively, that's how the team felt. I mean, there were exceptions, obviously.
Yeah.
But they love it here. They loved it here. And that's been true on almost every production that I've worked on. There have been a couple but more probably because of the how it felt on set than in Butte. But people love it here.
Yeah.
Well, things like this don't just happen. Like a film festival doesn't just pop up and happen by itself. And a art community doesn't just like spring up out of nothing. It takes hard work, and it takes the right people.
Right.
And it takes the right village to like create the recipe for these things to happen. And then the community and the people benefit because of it.
Right. Well, and I feel like now is the time in Butte too, because I mean, Butte is known as kind of the old boys club, and during that era, this could have never happened. It was built, they had a vision of how Butte ran, how it was built, what made it successful, how you made your money, how you walked through life. And it's very different than this culture. And so it took weeding some of that out and bringing in fresh faces and younger people that had new ideas and that weren't born and raised here. People that came from the outside, and they had seen things that we didn't see, and they knew things we didn't know. And I feel like that is the collective now in Butte. I feel like there's just a group of people that encourage it. They understand it. They've seen it, and I think that Butte has evolved into that, because initially it was it was a mining town, and it had a ton of diversity, and it had, you know, people from all over came, but they came for one reason, you know, and it was money and gold and or copper, and it's just changed. The people that come to Butte now come to Butte for different reasons, and there's more diversity as far as just demographics of people and their vision, and I appreciate that so much. Yeah.
Well, it brings such vitality to town, I think.
Well, yeah, I love it when you walk around and all the restaurants are full, and you know, you go in the coffee shop and you have to wait.
Yes.
And you know, yeah. And you know what's really funny is all of the people so far that I've worked with have embraced Uptown Butte specifically, just because I feel like that's where the magic lies. You know, it's where the history is.
Absolutely.
And you can feel it in every building that you walk into, you know?
It's the heart and soul of this town. It's where our culture exists. I mean, when we were opening up 5518, like there was no question we had to be uptown.
Yeah.
And at that time, you know, 8+ years ago, uptown, there wasn't much going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, you know, every city in America has a Harrison Avenue. And we wanted to be in the heart and contribute to the soul of what this place is.
Right. And I absolutely agree. I think, you know, when you hit uptown, like I feel like I'm somebody who's very sensitive to like history and just the nuances and the energy of it. And you hit uptown and you're like, the energy is just, it's there.
Yes. Yeah. You can feel it.
You can feel it. And if you are somebody who enjoys that and like wants to be part of that, then how could you not love it here?
So with everything that you're doing, all of the productions that you're helping out with, this festival that hopefully goes on forever and becomes huge, and it's like Sundance and Northwest 360. Those are the two that you go to.
Oh my! I mean, that would be so amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
fingers crossed.
So with all of this work that you're doing, you realize that you have like an incredible effect on this community, right? I want you to realize that.
Thank you for that. I guess I don't think about it. I mean, for me, it's work. You know, it's work, and I like in my heart, that's what I want to happen. You know, that's why I do the things I do, or that's why I encourage people to come here for this or for that, or, you know, can we film here? So that's what I hope to do. But I am only one person in a part of a community that is so encouraging, and everybody's trying to accomplish the same goal. And so I feel like I'm a drop of water in that pool. And yeah, and if I can contribute, then I am 100% happy. You know, that is the end goal. And it's the end goal for so many people. And like I said, if we all just keep pushing toward that, we'll get there. Like Butte will get over that precipice, you know? And so, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, time travel with me for a sec.
Okay.
Let's go 150 years into the future.
Okay.
And when people look back and say, hey, remember when that film festival first started?
Oh, yeah.
Man, that was a cool time. What do you think people will say when they think back onto the time that we're currently in and the efforts that you're putting forth in town?
Wow. I mean, I hope that it's part of the narrative. You know, that's what I hope. I hope that there's a time when, and not even just the festival. How about when 5518 opened, and then they opened another store, and then they did this, and they built up Butte, and how about that freaking cool studio that's up, you know, like all of those things. I hope that arts and the industry and music and film and comedy is part of Butte's narrative. That's what I hope, along with the mining history and all of the amazing things that happened back then, and you know, all of the stories of the wild, wild west and the lawlessness. And I hope that there's a piece there like, but remember when music and comedy and film and all of that came to Butte, and it's still part of our narrative. That's what I hope.
Well, it takes all of those pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. I mean, nothing's built. You can't build something that the masses want to attend with one thing.
Right.
You just can't. There's people that they don't they don't care about film. They're not going to go buy tickets and sit in a dark theater during a day and evaluate up and comers, because some are great, some aren't great, It takes all kinds. But even that one that somebody's going to say, well, that wasn't no good, that is somebody's baby. That is somebody's life's work. And so everyone, you can find a piece of genius in them, And so that's always the goal with a film festival. But there's some people that will never be film people, but maybe they love music. And so if we can bring some music in, people love comedy, love to laugh, so if you just sprinkle a little bit of everything into something, hopefully the masses will come. Bring in some food, some wine, just a little bit of something that interests everybody. And that's kind of our goal. And it's lofty, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, we had a few events that people were super excited about this time. We had a few they could have cared less about. And that's how it works, And so you just keep manipulating it and putting the pieces together until you've got a full puzzle. And that's what we hope to do.
Well, good Lord. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for everything
you.
you're doing.
Thank you.
What,
Thank you so much.
So for people who are listening, how do you need volunteers? Do you need ideas?
We will for next time.
Where can they find
we
you?
had a very core group of volunteers this time. One of them sitting on the floor here with us that did so much work. And I think some of the places where I would say fell short this time, but I would like to think it was just we didn't know. We'll need more hospitality people. And like next year, we hope to have like a pedestrian park where we can bring in some pop-up shops and some different food vendors and stuff like that. So we're going to need more volunteers for next time. And I will just put that call out.
How can people find you or get a hold of you?
I'm always out there on Facebook and Instagram doing casting calls and looking for vehicles, picture cars for movies,
God,
and an airplane. And
Katie, her Facebook is so, you've got to follow her on Facebook.
Yeah, I gotta
every
see it.
week there's something that she's just like, hey
I'm
everybody.
looking for a yellow elephant if you have one. I'm looking for, but I have to tell you the funniest story about this. So we're doing a show. We're filming it here. It's the Michael Polish film. Cool. And he sends me a picture of a old vintage airplane. It's pure silver. It is amazing. And he said, Shera, I want one of these for the show. And I was like, what? Like, I don't know anything about airplanes. So I go on Facebook and I put a picture of this plane. I'm like, hey out there, if you got this plane in your garage, I'd like to rent it from you. I got it in Dillon, Montana.
Oh my God.
A friend of mine in Dillon, he's like, hey, Shera, Randy Bailey has that in his garage. And I was like, are you kidding me? He goes, it is shiny. It is like it's off the showroom floor. And it was. And he flew it in here. It was the most amazing thing. It was like a needle in a haystack. There were still only 4 of them operating in the United States, and yet that one was in Dillon.
That's insane.
That's amazing.
It was insane. Yeah.
Oh my
wow.
God.
And I guess that's the magic.
That's movie magic right there.
It really is. I feel like Butte has this ability to generate serendipity. There's something about it that you put it out there and people get excited to help you. Like I could never do my job if people didn't get really excited and be like, oh my gosh, I have a little yellow Datsun. You can use it.
Have at it. Here are the keys. Just fill it up.
Yeah.
Bring it back filled up.
Exactly. I have a horse trailer that has stallions on the side of it. It has a flat tire, but I'll fix it. I'll get it ready for you.
That's so great.
I am blown away by the generosity of people. I don't know if you guys know Dan Hollis.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He comes to my rescue at that man has got a museum in his house, in his garage, and he will give you access to any of it at any moment. And I'll be like, I need whatever. And Dan Hollis will be like, hey, sure, I got it. I got you. And he'll deliver. He'll pick. He's amazing. He's amazing. And he also has been a police officer in a couple of the shows we did. So
That's
So how many mountain men do you think you could pluck out of the hills around this town?
Oh gosh, I've tried actually. None that are willing. The thing about the mountain men, the true mountain men, is they live that way for a reason.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. They don't want you to be on. They don't want to be on camera.
the
Like
opposite of
Tom Orr. Again, I don't know if you've ever watched Mountain Men, but he was an old rodeo guy, and it was a lot of begging and pulling teeth. Like he wasn't super stoked on it at all, and. Yeah, so the real mountain men, they give you a hard no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Hard no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get off my property.
Yes, please leave.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story with
Thank you,
us. And
guys.
keep it up.
Yeah,
I'm excited to
thanks.
see the progression of the
Thanks.
festival and
Thank you.
all the ripples that you're making in the world.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, it's really
I
cool.
appreciate it. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah,
and
you as
I'm in love with your house.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Shera.
Thanks.
Of all the places, of all the places.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And thank you to our guest, Butte Original Film Location Scout and Mountain Man Wrangler, Shera Konen. If you're a fan of the show, please don't forget to hit the follow and subscribe button on your favorite podcast app over on our YouTube channel. And be sure to check out Of All the Places podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Of All the Places is produced by Morris Mountain Productions in partnership with 5518 Designs. Our theme song is made specifically for the show by your favorite power disco duo, Desperate Electric. For John and Ben, this is Katie. Thanks so much for listening to Season 2 of All the Places podcast.